This is the Summer in Review, presented by KTRU News. Good evening, I'm David Tuttle, News Director of KTRU Rice Radio, presenting the Summer in Review. This program is designed to help you catch up on what's been happening on and around the Rice campus while you've been away doing whatever you were doing. These stories are highlights of what has happened while you were away, those happenings which may be helpful to you in the future. But then again, maybe not. Nonetheless, here it is. The summer started on a bad note as Dr. Norman Hackerman, president of our beloved university, suffered several injuries in a bicycle accident on the 4th of June. Dr. Hackerman was riding his bicycle near the gymnasium when another cyclist, attempting to pass Dr. Hackerman, collided with him. Hackerman suffered 3 broken ribs, as well as bruises and lacerations on his arm and left leg. The other cyclist escaped with no injuries. However, Dr. Hackerman is now back at 100%, having completely recovered from his injuries. A number of movers and shakers have made some advancements over the summer. Charles Duncan, former Secretary of Energy in the Carter administration, has been named Chairman of the Board of Governors of Rice University. Josephine Abercrombie was named Assistant Chairman. Miss Abercrombie is Director of the Abercrombie Mineral Company, which has been involved with Rice for many years. Just look at Abercrombie Laboratory. And William D. Broyles does it again. In 1966, Broyles was a Rice student and president of the Student Association. Later, after graduating with a degree in history and studying at Oxford, he came back to Texas to help start Texas Monthly Magazine. The rest, they say, is history. 2 years ago, Mr. Broyles founded California Magazine with similar results. Now Broyles is editor-in-chief of Newsweek. All this in less than 20 years out of Rice. And lest we forget, George Bush, associate professor of the Jones School and associate of Lovett College, is still vice president of the United States. Speaking of Lovett, some members of that college may have a hard time finding items that were stored over the summer in the Lovett storeroom. Sometime around the second week of July, high school-age students living on campus for part of the summer found a way to get into the storeroom, and they stole quite a number of items. However, thanks to an alert maintenance man, the thieves were apprehended. Campus Police Chief Mary Vosswinkle explains.
One of the maintenance people from physical plant saw a young man, I'd say between 14 and 16, in the area of Lovett College, and he was sitting on a bench and he had something in his hand, and the maintenance man was not used to seeing that age student in that area. We had them in other parts of campus for the summer program, but just not over in the quad area. And he kept watching him, trying to figure out what he was doing, and he noticed that in a few minutes he laid something down on the bench and walked off from it under his scrutiny. So he walked over to see what it was, and it was a small pocket camera.
That, along with reports from Mrs. Payne, Lovett's secretary, prompted campus police to search the storeroom and talk to the suspect. 2 juveniles were arrested, and the stolen property was delivered to the campus police office. But because few boxes of items had names written on them, Lovett members have had to describe and identify the stolen goods before receiving them. If you believe something of yours has been stolen, go by the campus police office and describe it. They just might have it. 2 security measures initiated by the Committee of Masters and Presidents and the Rice Campus Police are going to make the campus a safer place for all. First are the campus emergency telephones installed this summer. 6 emergency telephones have been installed around the Rice campus to help those in trouble contact the police in the fastest possible way. Located outdoors at strategic points, such as the gymnasium, Allen Center, and Virgin's Walk, the phones are a direct line to the campus police office. When any of the phones are picked up, the campus police immediately know where you are and that you need help. Also, your message can be automatically transmitted to every security officer on campus. If you're ever in trouble, find one of the phones. They each have a bright blue light on top of them. Pick it up and tell the police your problem. Help will start to come the instant you pick up the phone. The second security measure is that of a campus bicycle patrol. Answering the request for a foot patrol, the police have devised this method of chasing villains on foot or on bike. It has one distinct advantage over cars and Cushman carts, according to Chief Vosswinkle.
Well, it has one advantage, is it's very, very silent. You can be up on someone before they even realize you're coming.
In only a month, the bicycle patrol has resulted in 5 arrests, all involving bicycle thefts, a major problem on campus for the past few years. Major campus additions and improvements have advanced this summer are the Mud Building and Herring Hall. The Mud Building broke ground early this summer and much resembles its namesake right now, but construction is continuing somewhat as scheduled to be finished sometime in early 1984. Herring Hall is to be the name of the new building for the Jones School of Administration. It will be located across the street from Weiss College, where Weiss and Library parking lots are right now. The building will be ready sometime in 1985 or 86, and the Rice Memorial Center parking lot will be expanded to make up for the space lost by this building. While the Rice campus may have been relatively quiet, up in Dallas it has been pretty lively at Southern Methodist University. On July 30th, more than 200 Iranians staged a riot on the SMU campus. Some 150 Iranians were holding a school-approved rally in the SMU Student Center denouncing Ayatollah Khomeini, when about 50 pro-Khomeini Iranians stormed into the center and started fighting. Police were reportedly pelted with rocks and bottles in their attempt to restore order. 34 people were arrested and 6 were injured, including 2 police officers. Many of you may remember this news story on January 18th of this year. Rice architecture graduate student Margaret Everson Fossey was found dead in the trunk of her car a few blocks away from her home in southwest Houston. No suspects were found at the time. However, earlier this month, Houston police found Meg Fossey's killer. His name, Coral Eugene Watts, the mass murderer who has confessed to 13 killings so far and is believed to have killed as many as 22 women in Houston, Galveston, Austin, and Michigan. One of the murders to which Watts has confessed exactly matches that of Meg Fossey. At one time, a $20,000 reward was offered for the arrest and conviction of the murderer, Coral Eugene Watts. Well, this brings us up to the events of the past week, Freshman Week.
Whatever courses you decide to take, whatever major you choose, and you may change majors, first and last, you're here to learn how to learn.
That statement, made by Dr. Catherine Brown, Dean of Undergraduate Affairs, started the series of speeches given at the matriculation ceremonies for the class of 1986. Student Association President Mary Ellen Trunco summed up what students may face.
Probably for the first time in your life, you are surrounded by people with similar abilities and accomplishments. And I've got news for you. You're not going to make the highest grade on the first physics test. In fact, you might even fail it.
And so Freshman Week began, as it has so many times before. But this time was a little different. For the first time in several years, all students can remember what they did during this Freshman Week, the first under the new drinking age law. As a result, many parties on campus were dry. Even the famed freshman casino party, former milestone of alcohol consumption, now symbol of sobriety. The reactions to the new style of party were, so to speak, well mixed.
First of all, when there was alcohol, there was kind of like a peer pressure to drink alcohol sometimes. And this way, I've been at parties without any alcohol this week, and that's great.
We'll remember this party a whole lot better without the alcohol, right?
Well, I think orientation week altogether has come off just fine, and we haven't had to pick anybody up off the street and carry them to bed. I think people have been able to talk to one another more coherently.
Do you think this party is hurting or benefiting from it?
Hurting, definitely.
But inside information had it that the mentors were not hurting. They had their own ways of dealing with the situation.
No, we've acquired it all from the freshmen, so it wasn't our own system. We did borrow it.
One of the highlights of the week was the annual faculty address, delivered this year by Dr. Don Benjamin, professor of religious studies and associate of Sid Richardson College. His speech, entitled Rice Shock, Symptoms and Treatment, dealt with what was the most turbulent, changing part of life, going to college. Dr. Benjamin stated that all Rice students are smart. The real question is what to do with smart.
Because being smart's like being an alcoholic. It isn't a problem you solve or something you get over, it's a condition you live with. And what you have to do to begin to deal with this part of yourself, and what every smart person has to become comfortable enough to do, is to be able, like people who go to Alcoholics Anonymous, is to stand in front of a group and say, "Hi, I'm Don, I'm smart."
The emphasis was to share smart and enjoy it, not to ridicule it, but most of all, to get away from it once in a while.
You got to learn to play if you're going to succeed at Rice. And it takes a lot of skill to do that. Because you've got to be able to do it in a fashion that just doesn't repeat the obsessive, compulsive behavior that we use to study, in the way we recreate. And that's a trick.
Well, this brings us up to the present. Oh, in case you were at the Freshman Activities Fair and were wondering who were those guys in the trash cans running through the academic quad, it was just our friends from Weiss College. You see, what started as a water fight between freshmen and upperclassmen at Weiss became a unified assault on other colleges. As they were running through the quad, the Weissmen wisely chose not to dump water on either freshmen at the Activities Fair or Dean Catherine Brown, who was just passing through at the time. At the fountain between Brown and Jones, Weiss had a strategic advantage, and at one time reportedly doused a young female teacher from the English department. And so it goes. And in case you don't think Rice has a significant impact in Houston, just look at the bottom of page 1 of today's editions of either the Post or Chronicle. You may be wildly surprised. That's our report for tonight. KTRU is gearing up for its fall schedule pretty soon. KTRU News hopes to present Calendar at 7 p.m. every day and midnight every night, a rundown of events happening in and around the Rice campus. KTRU News will come at you starting next week or so at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, 9 p.m. at night, and maybe to expand its hours later on in the semester or the school year, depending on how many volunteers we get. Volunteers are very important to us. We need student volunteers to make the radio run. KTRU will be having a general meeting for all its old and new staffers Wednesday night at 7:30 here at the studios. We'll be holding a series of meetings for DJs, news people, record reviewers, engineers, and whatever else you want to do at the radio. If you've never worked here, or if you've worked here for years, please come on by. That's Wednesday night, 7:30. I'm David Tuttle, and this is KTRU News.